You are listening to Let's Be Honest with your host, Just Jonda. Hello and welcome to Let's Be Honest. I'm your host, Just Jonda, and since this is one of our episodes about gossip and the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, of course I have my fabulous fellow legal bleagle and podcast bestie, Missy, here with me. Hey, Missy. See, your clapping was right on time today.
I'm saying, and you can't see my curtsy, but it's immaculate. So
Okay, so we are getting into episode 16 of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. It was one of those episodes where it wasn't like boom, 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 boom from start to finish with action, but it had some pockets of action that I think is appropriate for a housewives show because not everything is like the drama like nastiness. Some of it is the ridiculousness, which is still a part of the housewives experience. So we got that, and then of course towards the end circle back to some damn near fisticuffs, which we'll get into in a bit. So but before we get to all of that, some of the biggest news to come out in the housewives sphere so to speak, this week has actually been related to Salt Lake City. Um, that I think we mentioned last week that word on the street was that they were taping their reunion last week, and we were right. They did. They recorded their reunion on Thursday the 6th. They did it in California this time instead of New York. I suspect because of like the medical stuff or whatever. Because most of the reunions are done in New York. I think there's been an occasion or two where even the West Coast women have been brought to New York. But, Atlanta, they'll do in Atlanta, but, they've built up the cachet to have you come to them. And of course, Beverly Hills. But this one, it was a deliberate choice, in my understanding, is COVID related and all of that. So, as I said to Missy before we got on, we can't get into the fashion other than to say, oh my God. But we can't get into the fashion because that is an entire episode and we promise to give it to you because they deserve it. And I don't mean in a good way, Missy.
bad, like really bad. That's all I
And not Michael Jackson bad, who's bad, like just bad.
have. Horrible.
So, as if they could top last year's bad, they did. And the trajectory is supposed to be going up, right? Because it's season 2. And no, you may not necessarily be quite in the groove, but this is also season 2, but the Housewives shows have been coming on for damn near 20 years, like at least 15. So you don't really get the same pass that the earlier cast did when they were only on season 2, and we go, oh well, they're going to get better or whatever, because at this point, while you may still be getting your groove within your particular show and kind of just learning how to do the whole reality TV thing, the stuff like the reunion, that's pretty much a set formula. They give you a theme and you show up and whatever. You don't get a pass on, oh, well, it's season 1, it's season 2, because that's a formula that's been in place for like 15 years now.
But they had no idea that they failed at the assignment. They had no idea. They're patting themselves on the back.
Well, and we know that even if the other women were less than satisfied with their looks and vowed to never deal with whatever stylist assaulted them this time, one person in particular, Ms. Meredith Marks, does not feel would never feel like she did anything bad because Meredith Marks actually thinks that she is a fashion girl. So I have full belief, and I think we all can pretty much agree on that based on what we see her do on the show, that the choices or the reunion choices that Meredith makes are her choices because they're in line with what she does on the show. It's kind of like Giselle Bryant not following the advice of her castmates, even the ones she get along with, in getting a stylist. The difference with Giselle, though, is that Giselle, lover or hater, has a certain level of natural beauty that even though we give her crap about her clothes being a mess, you just can't deny the fact that she is beautiful, and you just go, which is part of the reason why even her castmates go, she has pretty girl syndrome. She's always gotten away with whatever she's done or whatever she's worn because of her looks. Not everybody can do that. Not saying that Meredith Marks isn't attractive. She's just no Giselle Bryant.
No, she's not. None of these women are.
Yeah. So, but anyway, that's already too much. We're already 6 minutes in. I'm telling you, their reunion fashions will surely send us down a rabbit hole. So, hard stop on the fashion. Okay, the other big news, again, still related to the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, and it actually grew out of their reunion, really, and it is the fact that by the time they wrapped for the day, news started to dribble out because no matter what everybody signs, and I'm sure it's not castmates, but people on set, that Mary Cosby was a no-show. And apparently this was something that was not known by her castmates, because it was not uh what am I trying to say? It wasn't like an actual, my understanding is it wasn't like a full stop resignation prior to the reunion. Now, it turns out the rumor was true, and Andy Cohen has since talked about it as of, they let everybody marinate on it for a couple of days. But by the time we came into this week, maybe Monday, I don't think he made a statement over the weekend, but on his podcast, he did confirm that she wasn't coming back. But what he said, which to me again is very telling of the fact that there wasn't like a full stop, I quit, so that they, in terms of them knowing she wasn't going to be there. He said that that he had a feeling that she wasn't going to be returning when he spoke to her on New Year's Eve, because he said he spoke to her on New Year's Eve earlier before he went to work. I guess since he remembers it, it was before he got ripped on live television with Anderson Cooper. And remember that. And he said that I understood what he was saying, although it wasn't artful the way he said it, and people like went in different directions. But essentially, what he was saying, what he was attempting to say, is that Mary said she didn't feel gratified by the experience and what have you, and based on her social media posts, which have certainly amped up in the past several weeks for obvious reasons with all the episodes. Based on the social media posts, it's clear that she's pissed with everybody. I mean, her social media posts aren't even terribly nice to Meredith, who on social media has kind of backed away from what seemed like a defense of some of Mary's comments, but she still never flat out, you know, disavowed her friendship with her. But Mary certainly has. But as you and I have talked about, Mary doesn't like, respect, or has any type of anything for any of these women anyway.
I just think Mary pulled an Antonio Brown for like the housewives. Like
Hmm.
ran off the field, took off the jersey.
It was just like bump it, and
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 Andy Cohen was left like, I don't even know. Did she leave or not? She coming back? I don't know.
exactly. Let me see. Call into the show. Riri was just giving me a call, and I told her to call into the show. We missed her. We haven't done one with Riri about this show in a minute, so I'm not sure she's going to come in. But anywho, yes, I do agree with that. And like Antonio Brown, who said that part of the reason he did that was because of him making complaints and what have you that were not honored by the organization. I would bet that Mary's rationale would be similar. Not so much that she complained to Bravo, but certainly that she felt like or feels like Bravo via her castmates were basically crucifying her to and I think that's certainly an appropriate way to term it coming from Mary, who has a tremendous Jesus complex. um Also, I it cannot go unsaid as well that a few days before the reunion, like maybe 2 days before, I want to say like Tuesday, a YouTube show called Sherelle's World had Mary's cousin Dan. Now, this is one of her first cousins, I believe, one of her mother's siblings' children. So Dan was on the show, and Dan said a lot of the things that you and I have discussed in the past because he and an uncle of Mary's appeared in various places during season one, basically confirming some of the things that people who claim to be former church members had said on Reddit. But Dan took it a step further. Dan,
Just a step. He took it like a mile further.
yes, that's right. Oh, yes, that's right. Because I sent it to Missy, and obviously we were both like, "What?" So, according to Dan and Missy, I think we can both agree this was not with prodding. Like the host, kind of sat back and just let him do what he does.
Let him rip, and
Let him
he
rip, and rip he did, and
and produced receipts. I'm
yes, he
like,
did.
what?
And so Dan went so far as to say that he did confirm, well, of course, all of these are allegations, but from his perspective, confirm the allegations about Cameron and the house situation. But he put it into some additional context by saying that put into some additional context by saying that part of the whole manipulative piece, because that's what I would call it. I think, I mean, what do you think? In terms of what he was,
Very, I would call it predatory
yes. So the
instead of
whole,
manipulative.
especially when you look at the age differences, because
Yes.
according to oh great, we're not getting echo, fantastic. So according to Cameron's death information, funeral stuff that you and I of course checked into independently, he was only about 33, right? Didn't we confirm he was like 33?
Yeah, significantly younger
Yes, he
than
was
her.
33, but also remember the timing, because remember that and so now this is where we get into where it gets real funky if any of this happened, whether it's the other stuff that Dan said, which I'm going to dive into in a minute, or even just the financial issue. Because remember, just based on the timeline put into place by watching the show, this the meeting or what have you that Dan had at the party, and of course subsequent with Whitney, but at least when we saw him at the party, Lisa's party, that based on when the show was filming, that was roughly March, April of 2021. So not too long ago, because last season moved very quickly in terms of the taping. And then because they knew that there was such a huge public interest in Jen Shah's trial, it's not so much that the taping moved quickly, because they hadn't taped in 2 years, but they recorded the show from roughly January to around May. And then, of course, we got it in the fall because it just would have lost some of its timeliness. And also, they wanted to get it on the air, and they had already greenlit a season 3, which is going to start recording literally in a few weeks before the reunion even finishes airing, because they don't want to potentially miss anything leading up to Jen's trial date, which is currently set for March, April of 2022. But anyway, I digress. So that happened in March. Remember, at that time he said that he had not been with the church in several years. So let's say, just for argument's sake, that's 2 or 3. And then he also said that when he was with the church, he was with them for 7 years. So stop me if I'm giving wrong numbers. Isn't that pretty much what he said on the show? I think he said 7 years.
That's what I recall.
Okay, so even if we were to say, in the least amount of time of the time he was not with the church, let's say 2 years plus the 7 he was with them, that would be 9 years total, which would make a 33-year-old have been roughly 24 when he became involved with them. And so all of this still would have went down in his 20s, with a woman who is in her late 30s, early 40s, but who is herself married to a man 22 years older than her. And I'm not going to put this all on Mary, because as it relates to the mortgage company aspect and all of the church and that whole branch of it, those are things that were owned and run by Robert and, gosh, I forget the woman's name, but Annie something, who was a part of the case that you and I talked about that went to the Utah Supreme Court.
Right.
So those aspects of it, no matter what led up to it, once it got into the money transactions, again, if this took place, because these are all allegations, a lot of that would have involved Robert and this other person who's like the church administrator / co-owner of the mortgage company. So we're talking about people much older, much more experienced, much more savvy. And let's face it, it sounds like if even half of the allegations about the stuff going on with these people is true, there was a lot of grift going on. Sharita, if you saw this episode, we wanted to bring you on the air. I see that you are in the room, so just hit the piece so we could bring you on. So at any rate, now, are we ready for the ugly part, Missy? Are we ready? Did we take our deep breath?
I'm still not ready.
I know, I wasn't ready to hear
it. Yeah, once you hear it, you can't unhear it.
I know. Okay. Yes, Riri, it's been too long, girl.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Now, which episode are we talking about to make sure I'm on the same episode?
Okay, we're talking about the most recent episode, Sunday.
Yes.
But right now we're talking about the gossip, because we did the gossip first. So we haven't gotten into the episode. So we're talking about the gossip. Remember the whole recording with Mary's cousin Dan. So now we're about to drop the bomb, which is that, according to Dan, who, again, as I said, pretty much confirmed, in as much as we can say confirmed, because again, all allegations, the stuff that we had been hearing for 2 years, he took it a step further and said that the real deal between Mary and Cameron is that there was a sexual relationship. He claims that Cameron even broke it down to him like, this is how it happened. This is how she got on it. At one point, there was some "call me Jesus" or no, what was it? No. I remember, you're effing God now.
Yes, you're effing God now.
Which,
And
let's call a spade a spade. I can actually kind of see her saying that if that happened.
there's pictures.
Yeah, yeah. And that some of it even went down in their house, that there was some sneaking around for the benefit of the servants and probably the child, and but not for Robert, that Robert knew about it and was like, whatever, I ain't sleeping with her. I mean, she don't want to sleep with my old ass. I got a son out of the deal, because remember that he and Mama, the grandmother, had been together for 20 some odd years, but she never bore him any children because she was the same age that he was when he married Mary, in terms of him being in his 40s and her being in her early 20s. It was literally the same scenario when Mama married him. So so obviously she's a woman in her 40s. She had already had multiple children who, according to the myth of Mama, she had walked all the way from Texas to Utah to establish a church. Yeah. So anyway, ultimately, his heir, the one child he was finally able to have, unless there's some other ones out, unless Robert is for the streets and we didn't know about it. um she is the child that Mary had, because he never had any with Mama. So I suspect that if there was some hiding in the house, because there were some people that said, well, why, if Robert didn't care, why would you be sneaking around the house? Well, because remember, as Mary has said, even in season 1, a lot of times the people that she's had work for her are family members, because she married Robert so that they could have all the money. So because remember, the one cousin had basically been her nanny since Robert was a baby. And then she had somebody else working there most recently, I think was Dan. I could have sworn that was Dan at the house in the most recent episode, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, and her son was there. I mean,
Yeah, and that's
her
what I said.
son
And
was
her
there.
son. So, and her son would have been, if this is sometime with over the course of the last 9 years, even over the course of the last 5 or 6 years, her son would have been, like 11, 12 years old. Because her son is only like around 17, 18. So anyway, so that is the messiness. Unfortunately, as we know, Cameron isn't deceased, so obviously he can't talk about any of this. But it also, my spidey senses are telling me that some of this also makes a little bit of sense in light of the fact that, notice that every time like Lisa or Whitney talk about whatever these allegations are that Cameron has made and these things that he has told them, they always get to a point where they go, oh, and there's so much other stuff I can't say. Sex is usually one of those things where you go, oh, there's so much other stuff I can't say.
Right,
Because
right.
if you can tell the world that they gooped him out of $300,000 from refinancing his house, what could be worse than that? I mean, besides like murder, but what could be worse than
Well,
that?
there could be other things like tip of the iceberg that all these people
Well,
are
yeah, we
afraid
know
of
like a
her.
lot of, yeah, and also I get it. Like a lot of, when you get into any allegations that not even just the church, but that anybody is behaving in any of the type of behavior that has been alleged with Mary and Robert, aka Bishop, whether it's in the church or culty sense or just flat out just some folks in the hood, it's very grifty. There's always a lot of seedy characters. Even if it's something in the church, it's still very like distasteful. Like you, even when you talk about it and folks are gossiping about it in the hair salon, everybody's face is like, ugh. So I agree. There could be a lot of things that would make that he could have told them to make them uncomfortable. But I think sex would probably be at the top of the list.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do
I
you think,
agree.
Sharita?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm going with sex. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I could be wrong. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying it's fact. I have no actual about this, but that's
But
my
like
opinion.
sex for 3,000, Alex.
Yes, I'll take sex for 3,000, Alex.
Okay, so that but ultimately, so Mary's not coming back. There are many theories as to why. I suspect that one of two things will happen. Either Mary will continue to filter out information in her own way. She will consent to being interviewed by somebody, which I do not see her doing given the nature of the allegations. I think that if Mary speaks, it will be in her own way. It will either be through Twitter or Instagram. She'll do a live, or this podcast that she was supposedly doing that we saw on the show that no one's ever seen or heard of. It will be in some way like that. I don't see Mary Cosby subjecting herself to questioning with these types of allegations without a lot of controls in play. And realistically speaking, and I say this to people all the time, that even though we are kind of immersed in these, in the Bravo universe or OWN or VH1 or any of the shows that we talk about, in the grand scheme of things, some of these shows barely get 1 million viewers. So the vast, overwhelming majority of the world have absolutely no idea who or what we're talking about. It's so you're like, so when we're having these conversations, we're preaching to the choir and talking to the same people over and over, just in different settings. That's what makes it such a big deal, that people like our mothers or just grandmothers or whoever would know, or even if they don't know, but would recognize a Nene Leakes, because of her becoming a cultural phenomenon that transcended the numbers and the genre that she is a part of, because the overwhelming majority of the world have no idea who a Mary Cosby is. So other than what if her choosing to make any statements, if she doesn't, eventually people just stop talking about it and forget it. When the show comes back next season, you'll have people who will want to be critical like they always are and go, oh, the show is not as good since Mary isn't there or whatever. But again, the show barely gets 1 million viewers with or without her, so it doesn't matter. So
I
Yeah,
don't
but
think
some
a
of
lot.
this,
Yeah. Oh, go
go ahead.
ahead.
I was going to say some of this stuff isn't going to go away because it seems like they're in a little small fishbowl
Oh, I
and
agree.
it's not a lot going on. I would not be surprised if there are investigations,
Oh, I
given some of
agree.
these allegations, where she will have to answer whether she
To
wants
somebody.
to or not. Yeah. So, I mean, of course, she's not going to volunteer or walk up, but I think we'll be hearing from her even, a little bit beyond the Bravo bubble because, she went wrong when she let too many people know who she was.
Oh, absolutely. And it was totally
Mm-hmm.
unnecessary. Talk about somebody putting themselves in an unnecessary situation. She does not
Mm-hmm.
seem, she did not use the platform and doesn't seem to have ever wanted to use the platform to increase her reach
Membership.
as a
Yeah.
minister.
No.
Absolutely, like she wasn't using it to go mega church or to attempt to launch her own version of the PTL club. She wasn't trying to launch a product. She isn't wasn't trying to become a Bravo celebrity and use that to get on red carpets and what have you. There was everything that would be a reason, and we know the reasons because, well, one, we're smart, and two, we've seen the others do it. Everything that would be a reason for anybody to do these shows besides just a check, she did not tick any of those boxes. So talk about somebody putting a target on their back for absolutely no reason. And I
No
mean,
reason.
and from season 1, like we talk about her in season 2 and the fact that it's obvious she doesn't like them and doesn't want to be there. I mean, we've said that like every episode she's appeared. But the only reason why we have said it so much during season 2 is because we've seen her more in season 2. But we felt the same way in season 1. Even when we saw her on a limited basis, the attitude, the not wanting to be there, the not truly wanting to participate, the high-handedness, feeling like she was, they were all beneath her and you're this and I'm Jesus and all of that has always been a part of who she was. She literally slept at their reunion.
Oh, last year, yes. Yes.
I firmly believe that literally the only reason Mary was brought back, despite the fact that she had, her and Jen had their conflicts last season, I truly believe that if she was on any of the other franchises with that performance, especially since she wasn't there most of the time, there would have been a more than likely chance, her couple of run-ins with Jen last season notwithstanding, that she would have not been brought back. Mary was brought back this season specifically because they knew that the storyline was going to be about the allegations, because we know from watching this, it's all mapped out in advance. They already knew that they had a built-in storyline basically for everybody, um with Mary and the church thing. The Jen Shah thing, as we discussed, fell into their lap. That was just a happy accident. She just happened to get arrested while they were filming. Had that not happened, this would have been all Mary all the time. Because they knew that that was going to be the primary focus of the season because of everything that came out during season 1, but they couldn't explore it on the show because they had already finished taping by the time the show started airing, then they already knew they had hit the jackpot for season 2. And that is the only reason why she's there, because otherwise she showed no interest in being there.
Oh, you could tell she was forced to be. She only came because of contract to come to half the things she came to. It was so painfully obvious.
But you know
Absolutely.
what else you can tell is that, like, especially this season, okay, Robert is not showing his face. Don't even want to
Mm-mm.
be on the phone with her when the camera's there.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
The son is like deuces. The
Yeah, the
little
sun
cousin
is
that
out.
little cousin that work in the house is like, nah, bruh. You
Yeah, and
know,
the girl that worked in the house last year, the one that was helping her with the closet, that she said like came to help when little Robert was born and just kind of stayed, that fell apart before the show even aired, because I had read about that she was no longer working there. So it's like just a random constant rotation of cousins.
but I will say that when a ship starts sinking, that's when the rats jump off.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
And she's like operating a pretty big ship.
And it's really a scary situation for them, because the reality of it is that despite all the clothes and the big house and whatever, that big house was and we know because she even talked about this episode, things that belong to mama. That big house was mama's house. You could look at the house and tell that that was like something that an old lady built when she got some money back in somebody who never had anything, kind of like Isaac
Mm-hmm.
Hayes getting 14 karat gold bumpers on his car. So Lord, I dated myself with that reference. So anyway, um so all of that were things that were already in existence. And then there was some cash and carry kind of situations because of the mortgage company, which in any situation is going to be one of, if you could get one of those type things going on, that's going to be probably your most lucrative. Most of the other businesses, from the radio stations to all of that stuff, none of that stuff exists anymore. The restaurants, I think there were two, maybe the one that was left is probably that, they said COVID, kind of did that one in. And then the other stuff, I'm assuming there's probably property that they were selling off because mama bought a lot of property. And again, it was probably cheap at the time that she got it. And of course, we know the congregation that we've seen in church on TV is pretty indicative of the congregation she has. There, I would bet my hat they don't have 100 members in that church. And then you got to take into account that the church split. And then who's going to go and listen to somebody who may or may not have even graduated from high school, who can barely put together coherent sentences speak?
Yeah.
For a whole sermon, too.
For a whole
entire sermon.
Well, the choir rehearsal alone scared me when they showed the little snippet of choir rehearsal, and then she started going into testimony. Yeah.
No.
No.
And speaking of choirs, the choir for that church was known everywhere, but peep this, I talked about this before, it was because of her mother. You know how there's always in every church there's just somebody the choir is associated with, like if it's a
Sissy
church
Houston?
with a bomb choir.
Like
yes,
Sissy Houston.
Trenton, Betty Young.
Yes.
From when, she had us killing it, Pastor's Choir at El Bethel, and then she went to Shiloh. But again, it is inextricably linked with her.
Yes.
Homeboy and Jeannie at Grace with the Bishop's Choir.
Yes.
So it's the same. Well, Mary's mom, it's the same thing. She is that person. So when she left and started her own church, which isn't around anymore, but when she left initially and the church split, well, if anybody gonna go with the minister of music, it's gonna be the choir.
The choir gonna follow the minister of music,
If
and the
nobody
musicians
else,
too.
Okay, if nobody else go, the choir members going.
Yeah.
Not to mention the fact that since she's pissed and telling everybody that she thinks that Bishop killed her mama, so they going with her anyway. If that's your girl, that's your beloved choir director. She's also, you feel like she touched by the Lord, so she can preach too. And on top of it, she telling you that the man who runs the church that y'all splitting off from is responsible for the matriarch that built all of this no longer being on this planet. Yeah, I'm going with her. So we already know what happened. And I actually saw them. There's a video. I'll find it. There was a video. Because the thing is, she left and the name of her church really wasn't much different. It was basically like, one is like Faith Tabernacle something something, and the other one is like Faith blah blah blah. But hers isn't in existence anymore. And then the other thing is, remember, Dan said that Mary and Bishop aren't even there most of the time. He said they're only there like maybe 3 or 4 times a year or something crazy like that. So yeah, too much of your
international between what is it? Indianapolis, Utah, Vegas.
Exactly.
Quite a circuit.
New York for your surgeries, all of that. Well, now it's on Zoom, so it doesn't matter. So but remember the type of folks that and the type of church this is. Something tells me that Mary don't believe in vaccines.
No, I can see she doesn't.
I don't think any of them do.
No, because she's God, and she's going to place her healing hand on them. So you don't need a vaccine. I'll heal you with my hand.
And I might have to go exactly. And I might have to go with Missy on that. This might be the only area where we got to be pro Shah. I think of that entire cast, the Shahs are probably the Shahs, and maybe the Wins, Jeannie's family are probably the only ones who wear masks. The rest of them strike me on some anti-masker type stuff.
Oh yes.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
So if Meredith and Lisa got the vaccine, it's only because they run businesses, not because they wanted to.
I will just say
So
that, like, I know that
your volume went down. You were sounding great for a minute. What happened?
I don't know.
Oh, now
There
it's
you go.
perfect.
Okay, on a normal day, there are Make America Great hats in the wardrobes of every single one of these women.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
So that's where I said this is the only area where you got to go pro Shaw on it. So although I don't know, I don't know. So because I mean, it's one thing to go to school in Utah, then you decided to stay. I don't know. So anyway,
Yeah. Yeah. I
okay,
said what I said. I didn't make
exactly. So episode 16 starts off, little light. We knew that Meredith was planning a party for Seth. I want to say that it kind of got mentioned towards the end of last episode, but I don't remember because this episode started a little weird because they just they just came in after the party as if all of that had not occurred, right? I mean, am I mistaken?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't episode 15 the party and they were all like fighting? And it went off literally with Meredith and Lisa having it out in sort of the lobby area or whatever you want to call it of Whitney's party. And unless I blinked or because I always say maybe I went to the restroom or something, I feel like this episode it just started like on a new day. There was no epilogue to the party or anything. Did I miss something?
No, you
No,
didn't
that's
miss
it. That's how
anything.
it ended to me. So
Yeah, because I don't use it. Yeah, okay, so I'm not going crazy. And it made it even wilder because of course right before it starts they show you what happened the week before, so of course we see the note it ended on, and then it began and it's like daylight and an sort of an aerial picture, so that was weird. But anyway, we know that she's getting ready for this birthday party for Seth, and she was all pressed about making sure she had it somewhere where there was a pool. um I thought maybe it was going to be indoor. I really don't know what I thought, or maybe it was a hot tub that she wanted, but I was like, I'm pretty sure it's still winter time. But then again, they seem to do a lot of things outside in bathtubs and hot tubs and whatever. I guess if that's what your weather is, you're just used to doing those types of things. And I guess we're just not. Like if it's cold, there's just certain things we don't do outside. That
Yeah.
just might be the blackish in us. I don't know.
yeah, I'm going with that. Yeah.
So what was the theme of this? It seemed like there was a theme, but
The
like I
theme
didn't
was
get
my
what it was.
husband's a perv, and I'm okay with that.
Okay, that
I'm
sounds about
celebrating
right.
it. It was kink, like how the Met Gala they celebrated kink. I think like what's your kink? What's your ideal? Like what's your little and not kink in the sense of
But I
kinky
don't know if they
sexual,
said
but
that. Did she
not
say that
sexual.
that was the theme?
Well, no, not sexual kink, but whatever is your oddity. That's what. Remember the Met Gala when like 2 years ago their
Oh well,
theme
I
was kink.
mean, well,
Yeah.
I get that in terms of Met Gala, but I'm saying, did she actually say that was the theme? I thought the theme was like it, not being funny. It was my husband likes certain things, so I'm just gonna do. I'm
Yes,
trying to
that's
put together a party with things that he likes,
yes. It was
except
very hodgepodge, as I
except
call
the
it,
things that he likes
or very
makes it
hodgepodge.
highlights the fact. Well, it wasn't hodgepodge, it all highlighted the same thing, which is that Seth is pervy. Like
He's a
it's,
perv. Yeah, he's pervy. Mm-hmm.
in our opinion, I was like, what the heck. Okay, so let's start. Mary, I would say her attire was the mom from Beetlejuice. That's what I'm going with. Yes, it was the mom from Beetlejuice who in recent life would be Mara Rose, and it would be when Mara Rose goes golf. That was
You
Mary.
know, Eileen Fisher would never like
I love
Not on
Eileen Fisher.
purpose.
I love
not
Eileen
on
Fisher too.
purpose.
Can I say that?
Well,
I love her.
wait, she is the bomb.com. No, she would not on purpose going to a friend's party. No. She would if she's being Winona Ryder's mom in Beetlejuice, sure.
Right, because that was all Eileen Fisher. So like I don't know, but like that was 20 something years ago. So
It might even be 30 to be honest. I think Beetlejuice. I'm serious. I hate to date myself and date all of us quite frankly since we're all roughly the same age, but I'm almost 100% positive that Beetlejuice came out when we were in high school, or at least when me and Sharita were in high school or about to graduate. I know that Beetlejuice had already come out by the time we went to college. Am I off with that, Sharita?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were in about our freshman year in college, or yeah, it was
Maybe
it.
something like that. Yeah, Beetlejuice had been
Yeah,
out for a minute.
yeah. It was like it came
Um,
out like maybe our sophomore junior year in high school, maybe. Yeah, because
oh
it
yeah,
came out before
Beetlejuice
Edward
is
Scissorhands, and Scissorhands was our sophomore year in college. Okay.
absolutely Beetlejuice is like, I mean, that was really one of not the, but certainly one of the star making roles for Winona Ryder.
well,
Mm-hmm.
So
maybe it was all vintage. Like I don't know.
uh
Like let's
it
try
was
to work
Why
all
with
no?
that.
it was all something. I don't think that she was trying to be vintage.
1988. Beetlejuice
Okay.
came out in 88. I just googled it.
Okay,
Okay.
so we're right. All right. So junior year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that Mary was trying to do a vintage look. I just think that by the time she puts on however many layers of whatever she puts on in that hoarding area of hers, that's what it came out being. She's like, okay, I'm going to wear black. And so everything black she had, she put on.
Because she is not rotating that closet. She's
No.
not. She's
No.
not.
She can't navigate it to rotate it, and most of the time she looks weak, so she can't even move things. Like she literally looks sickly most of the time.
Yes, she
So
does.
yeah, especially bless her heart when she's not wearing makeup. Whatever she let them do to her face, she needs to be somewhere with Pepper from Salt and Pepper suing somebody because woof, Lord.
If I had to speculate, they did not use the cool laser on her. You know, you
Well,
get
no,
laser
definitely not.
stuff.
There was definitely burn marks, and when you combine
Yeah.
that with bleaching, it is a lethal
Yes.
combination.
Yeah.
But towards the bottom of her face, when we saw her with no makeup, it's so funny that you said that. I hadn't mentioned it, but that was the first thing I thought of. I was like, okay, she was one of the people that got it before they realized that people of color need the cool laser.
Or she's just in Utah and they don't have a whole bunch of black people
There
to
you
be
go.
like,
That's
Well,
girl,
remember
yeah.
they
though,
don't
she
know.
travels all over to get her stuff done
But
because she doesn't.
she does not have black quote unquote friends.
Yeah, so even if she went to New York, she went to whoever like was in the phone book. So
Mm-hmm.
because remember a lot they like several of her relatives and church members all insist that when she was gone for X amount of time and then came back with this new look and all these surgeries and lighter and whatever, that was when she was in a combination of maybe New York, Florida, what have you. Okay.
And she does not think highly of black people in
No,
general.
she doesn't.
Well,
You
yeah.
No,
know,
she doesn't.
you know she's not going to a black dermatologist, a black
No.
doctor.
Mm-mm.
She's not doing any of that. So
She's not even
yeah,
going to an Indian person that's too tan.
no, she's not.
So, are we going to talk about Meredith's outfit, or no? We're going to leave that. I mean, how
Um,
really,
mm.
yeah.
I can't,
It
man, I
was
can't.
purple
The
and
is
black and
that the one, the ostrich? The Ostrich.
No. The ostrich was Whitney's party. No, this
Whitney's
was
party, yeah.
Seth's party. Remember, it was a
Oh yeah.
LeMay.
Oh,
it was
the
shiny
black
with
and the
boobs.
Yeah, it was
purple
the
LeMay.
LeMay.
The black
Yes.
with the
Yeah.
purple LeMay. The 80, it was a reject of the 80s. Like it looked like a very 1985-ish outfit.
But
I
the
did not like it.
interesting
Yes.
thing
I
is,
did not
because
like it.
the deep dive Bravo people, they're like detectives. I swear, if I ever need somebody to find somebody, I'm just gonna go to like some of these people online that watch these shows, or go to the folks on Reddit. Because remember, it was the online people that basically solved the case with the guy and the girl in the van a couple of months ago. But apparently this is an outfit, and I didn't have a chance to pull it up myself before the show because I just heard this today, that this was something, and now I'm vaguely recalling it, that Erica Jane wore. So not only was it ugly, but it's
Mm.
something another housewife wore. So, like, first of all, don't repeat another housewife, but if you do, don't make it be one of the ugliest things they've ever worn. And chances are, even though it's ugly, if one of the Beverly Hills housewives wore it, they still managed to wear it better. Ugly though it may have been.
Yeah. She did not look comfortable, and it was her party.
Yeah,
And
but I
I hate it when women don't look comfortable. I really don't like that.
but then I'm wondering, did she wear it because she knew that ultimately it would get wet, so she didn't care? Like, was it a Dots version of the outfit, so she
Oh,
wasn't
she
gonna
didn't bring out
care?
dots. That's what my story. Oh, not the dots. Not the dots. Oh, she brought
Yes,
back dots.
Dots, girl, Dots.
Oh, you back there
So
with, oh,
Fashion
not
Bug.
dots. Fashion
Actually,
bug.
actually, Fashion Bug is higher than Dots. Dots and Rainbow are on the same level.
Yeah, dots, rainbow, and what's that one? Something I can't think of
See,
it.
I don't even know. I just
Them
know
little
Dots
cheap
and
stores.
Rainbow.
Yes.
But
Oh.
okay, so we'll get to the hot tub moment in a bit. I feel like we need to go and spend a little time with Whitney's breasts. Because apparently Seth wants to spend all of his time with Whitney's breasts. Now, I'm going to say this, and for those who are not black, I mean, if you feel like it feels a little prejudicial, so be it. What are you going to do? It's the way I feel. I cannot, and I was talking to I think, was it either you or Missy? One of us were talking about this yesterday. I cannot, in any sense of the word, I don't care if it is the most easygoing, is kind of non-confrontational brother on the planet. I would even
Oh,
use
that
my
was you
son
and
as,
I.
yes, I would even use my son as an example. Any man, certainly not of the brother variety, or even a Spanish brother either, because we know they don't play either. I cannot imagine any man who would be okay with someone commenting about their wife's breast in mixed company once, let alone every single time that they are around them, and that's just the times that the cameras have caught.
But
And
if you are in the lifestyle, that is the
well,
lifestyle.
okay, and of course we're going to get to that, because that's the only explanation for it. Because like Sharita and I were talking about yesterday, it would be one thing if, for whatever reason, because see, every different strokes for different folks, it would be one thing if she had just gotten her chest done, right? This is a close group of friends. They, not this group, but I'm just saying a close group of friends got together. The wife had just had her breast done. It's obvious, and I'm sure it was obvious when Whitney got hers done, because even though we didn't see what she looked like before, she's a small girl in every other way. So it's obvious that the breasts are done. They are sitting up, plus they're extra swollen, just done. Okay. They haven't dropped yet, the whole 9 yards. We get together as couples. There is no question. There is no point in us pretending that the elephant in the room is not wearing huge breasts. So the topic, in some form or fashion, is acknowledged. Yeah, I mean, obviously she just got surgery, so we're taking it easy or whatever. And one of the other men, one of the other brothers in the room said, well, I hope she's okay. She looks good. I'm sure it'll be a great thing for you all. Even that would be borderline for most men I know. And it would be the husband who brought the conversation up. Literally, that's the kind of thing that even if it's the husband who brings it up, you're supposed to just kind of nod and agree with him silently, because there just is really no appropriate time to say it. It would be like saying to your best friend that his little sister's breasts look good because now she's developing. Like what?
But let's consider the source. I
Well,
mean,
and again,
this is a couple. This is a couple who last year, they had a lot going on. He was there, she was here,
and
she was seeing
did
people,
you say that, Sharita?
and
Yep.
so
Absolutely.
We just
I
said that yesterday.
I think that the implications, and it's funny how these things come full circle, right? I think that it really wasn't implication, it was literally the threat of character assassination that Lisa made to Whitney last season. Remember episode 2 when Whitney called her out at the ski trip little luncheon thing, the first time they went
Mm-hmm.
skiing. And Whitney and Heather called her out on the fact that she had spread the rumors about Heather in college. And Whitney said, and Whitney called her out and said, yeah, and you called me on the phone and basically told me to shut my mouth or leave you alone or whatever it is, or you are going to spread rumors about me and my husband. Now, whether or not it's true that, whether or not Whitney and her husband get down like that is neither here nor there. The point is that's not something that whether they do or they don't want the world involved in that one way or the other, which they certainly have that right. And so it's really interesting that Lisa, who just happens to be her bestie, uses that as a threat to assassinate the character of this young woman who she's trying to shut down, when it's her girl who seems to have all kinds of little rumors swirling about her, because on top of the rumors that Jen Shaw was more or less co-signing on last season about Meredith being for the streets, during, I guess, when her and Seth was separated. But just a few weeks ago, it was all out on the blogs about an allegation that Jen and Meredith had a little bit of girly time, if you know what I'm talking about. I mean, not, yeah, Jen, Shaw, and Meredith had a little bit of girly time. Now, again, rumors, but there were like 3 different bloggers that said it. Everybody from Kempire to Up and Adam, all of them said it.
but
Really?
but
I missed all that.
but that makes sense though. I mean, I'm not saying it's true, but like I could see it, especially given the whole little show that she put on Meredith's
Yeah, maybe
couch.
there was a reason why she came over there with no panties on.
Right.
Oh, you are right. Oh.
Okay. Wasn't
Mm.
anticipating weren't the kids supposed to be leaving to go to the movies?
And yeah,
Mm.
like that would make sense to me. Not saying that's what it is, but
And
I
that
then
would
you
mean,
make
got the
sense.
husband that can't stop talking about. Okay, so now back to Whitney's breasts. Okay, fine. This has turned into some kind of joke to cover the fact that this man is not only obnoxious, because we saw that he was obnoxious last season. I kind of let it go a bit because I felt like maybe he was trying to overcompensate for the fact that Meredith was so dry. And she still is, but obviously because of various storylines, she's been forced to engage more this season. So I kind of gave him a little bit of a pass on that, especially when I saw them on Watch What Happens, because he really was the one that kind of kept the fun going when he and her interviewed with Andy, because she was still very like closed up and all of that. Okay, fine. but he was just ridiculous at Whitney's party. He was annoying to me even when the guys were playing golf. I found him annoying. Um, and at his party, I'm like, okay, did he take some shots beforehand or whatever? So,
Adam,
but there you go. So went from just annoying to flat out pervy
Yes.
at
Yes.
at the party. And there was one or two things I can't remember, like maybe one something he said last season that made me go in the pervy thing. But again, I kind of just let it go because she was so dry. But this was just ridiculous because then they went from just talking about the breast. So she gives him the breast cake and he gets down to lick the nipples. I was done.
Yeah.
I was done. I said, and he did it because if he had like been silly and like just put his whole like, smashed his face in them, which is what I thought he was doing, but he straight up face to the side, tongue out. I said, you know what? I am so over Seth right now. And I felt like some of the other people were too, but it's kind of one of those things where we're used to it, so we're not going to trip about it. But we did. I mean, it's still cringy. That was kind of the vibe I was getting from some of them, especially Dewey. And you would think that Dewey would be all down with it. Even Dewey looked a little like, damn, bro.
Yeah, he looked.
yeah, it was so
They all
weird.
looked uncomfortable. Like everybody was just
Yeah.
look. Yeah, only person that was smiling was Meredith. Which, yeah,
Yeah, because I kind of felt like even Whitney herself seemed a little uncomfortable. And when I caught that, I said, okay, Whitney doesn't like this. You know when I picked up on Whitney doesn't like it? Because she said, here's a cake of exactly the replica of my breast so that you can stop talking about them.
yep,
You
you were
picked that
right.
up? And I said, okay, she don't like it either.
So she's trying to give him
Cause she
subtle
did,
hints.
yeah, cause she didn't have to say that. It's like, here's the cake, happy birthday. She was like, so you can stop talking about them. And it was like, and it wasn't like, oh, you can stop talking. No, it wasn't like sweet Whitney. It was like, okay, it's the joke's over. Here's your breast cake. Your wife asked me to do this because obviously you don't just bring a breast cake to somebody's party without their wife's assent. Okay, I went along with the joke. Now we're good. We're even now.
But it's such a passive aggressive thing to do, especially if you're Whitney and you have the balls to come at people left and right. Like, just tell dude, shut up.
But see, I don't think she does. I think Whitney picks her moments depending on the backup. Number one,
Yes.
and two, I think she also Whitney wants to feel comfortable that if she's gonna do it, everybody is not going to come down on her. So that wasn't her moment because in that moment, however uncomfortable she may have been and however uncomfortable everybody else was, nobody was going to back her up. So she had to pretty much just not go along with it. And I also think that like Whitney and Meredith's friendship is still not quite a friendship, but it's better than Meredith and Heather. It's kind of like they're better than coworkers, but they're not quite friends either. And part of it may be age, so they may never end up being friends. Whitney is closer to the age of Meredith's kids.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
So and on top of that, Meredith acts older than she is. I'm going to assume that Meredith is probably only around 50 based on the age of her kids because Brooks is only in his early 20s because Brooks was in college when, and I'm assuming he's still in college, but he was in college when he took the semester off to do the show when they were trying to make him happen first season.
I don't even think she's 50. I just think she looks 50.
And she acts 60.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So okay, so now we have So that was the breast. Then they get in the pool. That was weird. Lisa was like, "Yeah, y'all ain't messing up my clothes." So was it Lisa or Whitney? One of them had a swimsuit. Was like, "Yeah, I'm not doing
Lisa.
that."
That was
Yeah.
Lisa.
Lisa was like, and I'm not mad at her. It was basic black because probably something that she could wear as a camisole under her outfit. She's like, "Yeah, we not doing that. Sorry." I wasn't mad at it. Like, even if it was just a leotard and not a swimsuit, I'm not wearing my whole outfit and my shoes and all that in the pool because, I am not down with that. And we know the others tend to do that. I am not down with that whole throwing me in the pool fully clothed.
Nope, ma'am.
I will end up in jail if somebody does that to me.
Yeah,
Clothes,
that's not gonna go
shoes,
well.
hair, all of that. No. Uh-uh. Mm-mm.
Yeah, walk
Mm-mm.
around your clothes, and then no,
Yeah, the
down to your underwear's
aftermath.
wet.
The aftermath is always
Yeah,
bad.
Oh,
you gotta
I
drive
can't.
home in your car with everything down to your
I'm
panties
not
and your
even to the
bra wet.
point. I'm not even
Oh
to the point of
no.
driving home in my car. It's just the fact that you have destroyed what I have put together that I had no intention of swimming in. I'm still stuck there. I'm still stuck poolside. So my anger is going to hover poolside for a long time before we even get to the point of anybody going home. So, okay, so next we go to the men surprising the women with a triple wave to a spa for Mother's Day. And I don't know who said it, but it was really funny. Was it Meredith, maybe? And I do have to hand it to her. It was either Meredith or Jenny who said they don't consider that a particularly relaxing Mother's Day to send them away with a bunch of women who they don't get along with. I think it may have been Meredith. But we know this is just Bravo's excuse for another trip, so that they could have to manufacture, if possible, a big blowout to wrap up the season, because this trip and whatever happens in its aftermath is basically how we wrap up the season, because there's only about two to three episodes left. So I guess they must be going to like maybe 19 or 20, or 18 or 19, like Atlanta, and then the 3-part reunion.
Yeah, because this
So
has been as a long season. A
yeah,
long
well,
Really has.
they gave them a fuller season than first season, because their first season wasn't even, I don't even think it was 12 episodes. I think it was like 10. Um, and then of course, not every show gets the same length. Of course, we know Atlanta and Beverly Hills have always gotten the longest seasons. Atlanta has definitely got the longest seasons. In fact, last season they finally cut it, thank God, because Atlanta was getting like 22 episodes before you get to the reunion, which is part of the reason that their salaries were so high. Because even when they switched to paying them per episode, that's a lot of episodes. So, and then everybody else, even New Jersey was only like, when New Jersey was hot, I think they were about 16, 18, but now I think everybody is hovering around 14 or 15. So they really shot all the way up, with this one. But again, I think because of the situation happening with Jen Shaw and Mary, and they knew that they didn't want to cut it, but they had to like kind of lead up to some of it. But obviously, if the three of us were producers, I think we could all agree that they probably could have cut as many as 4, maybe even 5
Yes.
episodes out of the first half before they got to the Jen Shaw arrest, because honestly, that first half dragged out so long that they probably lost viewers right before the show kicked into the part where, for those of us who have stuck with it, are telling people, no, it's good. And they're like, yeah, no, it was terrible. And we're like, well, yeah, you did have to stick around for like 11 episodes, but then it was great. So and yeah, and they've definitely got to tighten that up. But anywho, because even with the reunion, especially without Mary there, and it's not so much that any of us think a whole lot hinges on Mary, but there are things that obviously they were planning to, no question, they were planning to address because of the stuff that involved her in the latter half of the season. And when you combine that with the fact that if Jen actually listens to her lawyers and doesn't answer any questions about her case, it really closes the loop quite a bit on what they have to talk about, because you can deal with the fact that Lisa was a troublemaker and all up and through. Basically, she was the common denominator in pretty much every storyline, but that's still something you can wrap up in an episode.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't need 3 episodes to deal with that. And in fact, since we know that all Lisa's going to do is deny and tantrum out, you could probably knock that out in 2 commercial segments. So the women get surprised. Next, we go to Jen and Sharif. Any thoughts about Jen and Sharif? I mean, their scenes are just kind of pitiful at this
It
point.
feels like it's
Sharif
forced.
just looks.
It feels forced.
Yeah.
Forced.
Well, because I would imagine that Sharif just. I keep telling y'all, Sharif's black is cracked.
But can I also just tell you, one of my biggest pet peeves with adults is that nobody has to invite you to anything.
Boom.
Sometimes people just want to have a smaller crowd, or maybe it's just not a good mix. I always
Or
hate
maybe
when
they
people are
don't
like,
like you.
I didn't get invited.
Yeah,
All right.
exactly.
Like, she's like, but I thought we were good. But like, her saying, I can't be your friend right now, it doesn't mean you're good. I mean,
Well,
she
and
literally sat at the table.
and
Y'all
she
need to
didn't.
be her friend because I can't be her friend right now.
And mind you, she didn't just say it then. She said it multiple times. She said it when Jen was around, and even when Jen wasn't around. Heist level, she said it when, of course, when everybody ran back and told and talked behind each other's backs after the trip to the slopes. I'm sorry, to Vale. So of course Jen knew, whether she heard from Heather and Whitney or when Lisa was throwing everybody on under the bus. There's no question that Jen knew what that Meredith was basically dancing on her grave in Vale. Then, like you said, yes, she told her to her face at the table, like barely 3 feet apart at the faux lunch, the whole thing, I can't be her friend. And then let's not forget, she did it again at Whitney's party when she somehow managed to make that entire moment about her and said it again. You guys need to be this or that and the third because I can't be your friend right now. And as you said, Missy, that's when Jen said, but why not? And da 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 da. So no, I'm not inviting you to my husband's party because I keep telling you in front of everybody we know that I don't F with you. So what's confusing about that?
I don't get what the problem is. I don't know why she's confused.
Well, she really wanted an invitation.
If anybody would have been invited, it would have been Coach Shaw. I mean, we know Sharif probably wanted him there because he probably wanted to look at him in the pool. I'm sure that they all would have got a kick out of looking at Coach Shaw without a shirt on.
Oh,
He's literally the only one of the husbands who we probably actually wanted to see in the hot tub.
Yeah, out of all that group of them, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Sharif's the only one that we actually wouldn't have minded him getting in the hot tub. So that was weird. But then when Coach Shaw told her about, now this was the part, and Sharita, is this what you were talking about with it seeming forced? When Coach Shaw told her about the thing with the husbands wanting to send a wife on the trip, I'm gonna agree with you there, because most of the time Sharif's scenes, whether he's happy or sad, are very natural. And to me, this was one of the times that given what they are going through, he was not up for having to play his part in the whole Bravo thing. And in this case, his part was to promote this fake storyline for their next cast trip with this whole we decided to send you guys away, because realistically speaking, outside of the fact that Bravo set up this trip and the whole 9 yards, Missy Slovel is saying, hey, how are you? Because I'm the only one that can see the screen. So I think that the in real life, when if this was not a part of this whole, Bravo setting up the trip thing, this man just told her a week ago or whatever it is in real time that we've got to downsize, we've got to move out of our homes, we've got to do whatever because we got to come up with this money. Her mom is liquidating her pension or her
I wish I
401k to pay
would.
for her attorneys. Who you telling? Girl, I'm still mad
I
about that.
wish I would.
I don't know who I'm more upset with, Jen or her mama. But I mean, definitely with Jen, but I want to hit the mama too. But at any rate, I think that again, if we were to be realistic about this, given everything they're going through, and as especially as it relates to money, Coach Shah or Sharif would not be joining in with a group of men to send his wife on an all expense paid luxury Mother's Day trip to some posh villa at a spa for the weekend. That just wouldn't happen. So above and beyond the fact that he had to play his part in this whole, little Bravo piece, it was also it probably galled him to do it, because he's like, not only do I have to do this shit, but it's also crazy in light of what we have going on and the fact that I'm telling her that we got to send around a collection plate to pay our rent and her legal fees.
And we downgrade into a townhouse, basically.
Exactly. Not to mention the fact that I'm sure by that point her lawyers had already shown them that some of the other people who've already pled guilty and what have you in your case, the restitution is figures are like 3.5 million. Because that's what those sentences and restitution are looking like. It is high.
Look, when you have stuff like that going on, you can't do all the things. But it looks like Jen Shaw is gonna try to do
Well, she's still trying to give the impression that her life hasn't. Like, well, I understand that Coach Shaw says that we need to downsize, and I agree with him. But her downsizing is just until we get back on, because she's still talking this that she's going to be vindicated and she's going to come out of this not guilty. Like, okay, all right, okay, girl.
And this Bravo money, and credit for this information to blogger Tamara Tattles. Again, remember, they are early in their housewives journey, so as we like to say, they ain't got their money up yet.
Oh, they're not making $1 million. No, yeah, they ain't
no. In fact, not even close, according to Tamara Tattles, and it sounds about right from what we know in the past housewives. Season 1, they were making $2,000 per episode.
Ooh.
But again, when you're season 1, even on a network television show, unless you're an established name, an established star, you're not making very much. And remember, this is reality TV, and nobody knows you. So at season 2, they were making $6,000. $6,000 an episode, which, considering the number of episodes they have, that's why I said, Meredith, shut up with that every time they go somewhere. Why you keep inviting me? Heifer, you was gonna come anyway, because if you ain't in this episode, you don't get a check. So $6,000 per episode for them, while it may have been long suffering for us as viewers, for them obviously is a good thing, because if they've got 8 episodes, $6,000 per episode plus a 3 episode reunion, That's a nice chunk of change, really.
Yeah.
They got the free trips and what have you. At 6,000 per episode, that's over $200,000. That's I mean, that is still um as we all know from most reality shows, even on major networks, nobody gets a $250,000 unless it is a competition show like Big Brother or Amazing Race or Survivor, and then you get the big payday at the end, but you have to win.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, you literally get scale. Because I know on Big Brother, they get scale. If they make it to the jury house, then it goes up. But it went initially for those that get kicked off in those first couple of weeks or whatever. They just get scale, which, if I recall, scale is what, Missy Shrita, it's like $200 and something dollars. It's not a lot.
I never knew what scale was, but I'm
Um,
going to Google that one day.
yeah.
I'll find out.
hmm Yeah, scale is not even $500.
Wow.
So I mean, you make more than jury duty, but it ain't
It's
that
not
much.
much more. Wow.
But yeah, but the bottom line is $250,000 is a lot of money for a reality show. That's so in the grand scheme of looking at it from that perspective, when you add it all up, there is still value for them to being on like the Housewives show. Now, when you in the case of, say, a Jen Shaw and some of the others who Jen Shaw had money when she was stealing from people, allegedly. But in the case of some of the ones who are perpetrating, like some of the ones out of Atlanta, some of the ones even on this show, then we know that it's not a lot of money because they are spending a lot of money that they really don't have to perpetrate the lifestyle for the show, in which case a lot of that money, even though it may be $250,000 or in the first season barely $50,000, is being eaten up very quickly. So, quite frankly, for somebody like a Mary or some of the other ones, they probably came out of the first season without it really seeming like they made a profit because they had to show they tried to perpetrate living large and designer clothes and
Exactly. That's what I was just
which
thinking.
that $2,000 an episode with 10, 12 episodes, I mean, we're talking 20,000 before taxes. Now that's not a lot of money.
Nope.
So, but again, it's still more than the Love and Hip Hop people get.
But they had to basically, the money they're spending now, like you said, to live this life of opulence, because you look at a lot of their houses, with the exception of Mary, that looks like she's a hoarder, a organized hoarder, but hoarder nonetheless.
But at least with Mary's house, the one thing we could say for Mary, it may not be her house, but chances are, because it was Robert's house, it is a good, strong chance, unless they've gotten to the point of having to take mortgages out against it. At least her house, it may be hoarder central, but it's probably
it's paid for. But I'm just saying, as of her house, just the clutter of her closet / other rooms that she uses as a closet. But the rest of them are buying clothes for this show. Let's be honest. They're going out, they're shopping, they're getting their wardrobe, their life together to give a life of opulence.
Mary too. She just don't know what to buy, but she's spending it too.
No,
because when they show her sitting in her closet, and the purses and stuff that she has, now it's not stuff that you or I would necessarily think is cute, but because we know who those designers are, the bags cost what they cost, whether they're cute or not. A YSL bag is going to cost what it costs, even if it's not a cute one.
I think she's going to Neiman Marcus last call, though. I don't think she's shopping straight off the rack.
Oh, I'm sure she is. Yeah, she may not be. I mean, she's still spending, about 2,000. She just may not be spending 4.
Exactly.
Okay, so that was that. So now we get to them heading, and now I'm gonna give this to you, Missy. This is them heading to the Mother's Day retreat. They're in the van, and we basically have a redo of the same crew as last time, with Mary and Meredith not there. I don't even know if they ever said that Mary was coming, but we know that Meredith is going to be there because Seth was a part of the crew that came up with the idea. So I don't know what the excuse was for her not being there this time. I can't remember. Did they say that Mary and Meredith were going together? Because they did have a conversation about Mary and Meredith, which then snowballed into what became the big hullabaloo.
I
Do
don't
you
recall
recall?
whether they were I don't recall whether they were like gonna come together. I just know that I was tripping off of the fact that it was like the same driver.
Yes.
So like the same
Oh my gosh,
same
I didn't even
people.
notice
Oh no, they
that.
even said which one. Somebody
Yeah.
said something to him like, "Isn't this deja vu like the last time?" He said, "I hope not."
Now, I did hear the
Yes.
deja vu thing, and somebody said, I hope not. I was like, ooh, the shade, the
And I
shade.
know that if I was getting paid like $15, $16 an hour to drive with these crazy bitches in the back, I would
Screaming
be
and
like,
oh
what
yeah,
the fuck?
But you know
Yeah.
what? Chances are, because we know just from like Basketball Wives and stuff, a lot of times they're driven around by production people. So this van may be like a rental production van since it's all outfitted with like the mics and stuff. And he may be a member of production for all we know. And they're just making him look like a chauffeur because that would be weird. Like, how would you get the same guy? I mean, I guess the same company. I don't know. It is Utah. Maybe it's only one place that have those kind of vans.
Probably. No, it's like probably a party bus
yeah. That's
rental.
what it
Like,
looks like a party bus. Like if a group of us in New Jersey was going to Atlantic City for the weekend, then
I
yes.
agree, but considering that it's outfitted with multiple cameras and it has capability for a producer to be in there and whatever, it may be a party bus, but it might even be the same party bus they use on every show when the women are going somewhere and it's like a production van. Because there was definitely somebody from production in there because
Yes.
that sister with the braids had to grab Jen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, okay, so let's get into it. So somehow, and this actually, as we saw in the beginning of the episode, or flashes to the beginning of the episode, that this was something that really kind of started before they got in the van, kind of among Heather, who was it? Heather, Whitney, and Jen sort of going down this primrose path about the who, what, where, whys with the FBI knowing where Jen was and all of that, which of course just sounds completely crazy because do you realize you are literally having a conversation about how the FBI and Homeland Security know where you how would they have known where we are? Do you hear the words that are coming out of your mouth? It's the FBI and Homeland Security. What do you mean? How would they know where you were? I mean, I was sitting there like having I felt like I needed to take a pencil and poke my own eardrums out. Like I'm sitting here like, do you hear the words that are coming out of your mouth? So,
Mm-hmm.
like you are literally asking how the FBI knows where you are. Okay, I'm just going it if nobody else understands why that is ridiculous, then okay, fine. I know you two do. I hope that those who are listening to this show do, but if you don't, I'm not going to explain it to you. God help. Yeah, so that was ridiculous. And then somehow, I don't even know how cuz it was almost like at one point several of them were talking at once and then it sort of zeroes in where I think Jen, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think that Jen kind of let out the frustration. That's the way I took it. She kind of let out the frustration that she had been feeling as it relates to Lisa, that she did not fully express to her when they met for lunch. I feel like when they met for lunch, Lisa came ready with explanations and, of course, tried to flip it as she often does, to make herself the victim. I was hurt, I was this, and that's why I didn't reach out to you. And Jen was probably just glad that somebody in the crew was willing to meet her for lunch. So she didn't fully um really fully express all that she was really feeling about Lisa kind of dumping her. And so I felt like this was really, and I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong, but I still feel like this is where it came from. I felt like this was kind of her erupting with that because she didn't give it to her with both barrels when they met the first time. What do you guys think?
Oh, I agree. I would agree.
Yeah, Missy?
And I just think that there was time for there to be a little bit more clarity about how bad those conversations were. Because I
Yeah,
have no doubt that people were on the phone arguing their point of view or saying, she tried to say, because think about how bonkers it was that Mary was like, I didn't say anything about you.
exactly. And again, we also have to remember that there's a couple of different things that are at play here. There is Lisa. Now we know that Lisa has tried to shadow produce the entire season. But a lot of the shadow producing that Lisa was doing, and why she was probably able to play it, kind of play these women against each other, even if they didn't notice. Obviously, we were watching. I mean, we picked up on it, was because, like with Jen, she was talking to her several times a day. So while we may have picked up on, no, girl, she talking to you several times a day because she's manipulating you, Jen actually believed that Lisa was her friend. So there are actually a lot of conversations that were no longer happening. Certainly the conversations that people may have been having with Jen. So the only person that Jen has probably had, at least in that crew that she was talking to on a regular basis, was probably Heather, who pretty much is just gonna go along with whatever Jen says, as long as she's not yelling at her. So and so a lot of these, I agree with you, Missy, a lot of those conversations that probably would have gotten nasty and ugly and maybe gotten some of that out, they didn't Jen never got any of that out against Lisa, because I would bet money that Jen and Lisa probably didn't speak again since those Bravo cameras stopped rolling at that lunch. Because at this point, Lisa is in self-protection mode, and I would bet money that the only time that Lisa was effing with Jen from that point forward is if they were filming,
Mm-hmm.
which is not what Jen was used to, because like she said, they had been talking to her 3 times a day. So Lisa kind of set herself up for that, because you called yourself trying to set yourself up as Jen's bestie so that you could get airtime and, be with her to be the center of attention of the show. But it came back to bite you on the butt, because then when Jen had a real issue and you pulled away from that, she actually really thought you were her friend.
Mm-hmm.
So my signal had messed up. I think part of it impacted Missy, so she's probably going to call back in. But at any rate, so that was really bad. But then we had Jen. Help me. How did we even get to the point where they were standing up? Now I did see Lisa push, like she put her hands up. And of course, she wasn't trying to fight Jen, but she definitely pushed towards
Like
Jen,
she was
kind
backing
of,
her up, like telling her to back up.
backing
Yeah,
her
she
up,
was trying to back her up.
which, yeah, she was trying to, but see, that can be a dangerous move. You and I, it certainly know, and we've seen it. That can be a dangerous move, because if the other person is getting to the point of being of aggression, which Jen was, even if you put your hands on them to back you up, to back them up or try to, get away from them or any of the things that we know realistically that Lisa was trying to do, because we know Lisa ain't trying to fight. What that does with the other person is give them the thing of being able to say, "Oh my God, you hit me," or "Look and see what
She
she
was
did,"
reaching to hit me, or she was trying to hit me.
Yes, and that's why I had to reach them. And we know that Jen is absolutely that type of person, because that is very much, and no, guys, I'm not getting into a whole Candace or Monique thing. I'm simply saying that that is the type of thing that we would see a Candace do when it comes to that whole, like, someone putting their hands up and then she start windmilling and use as the excuse, well, they put their hands up. A Portia, somebody, they would do that.
Yeah.
Well, hell, we did see Portia did do that. Dennis tried to get tries to block her from going after his mom, and the next thing you know, well, we saw what happened there. So at any rate, so Jen gets up, all of this anger. You're not my real friend. You're not whatever. No, Jen, she's not your friend. She was never your real friend. The only person that Lisa has ever truly valued her friendship with on this show is Meredith. I guess time will tell if she truly is friends with Jenny. But if what happened with Angie is any indication, it's only a matter of time. Because remember when Lisa brought Angie into the situation, she had all the same wonderful things to say about them being friends for years and all of this other kind of stuff that she said when with Jenny. And then, I mean, I'm sorry. That she said with Jenny, but all of a sudden, when things didn't go her way one time, then it was later Gator, and Jenny was out of there. So, I mean, and
that's
Angie
why
was
her
out of
and
there.
Meredith are having problems now, because Meredith, the first season, was basically her lackey.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if she was necessarily her lackey, but I think she let her get away with a lot. Yes, I agree with that. Yeah.
So because
I think that Meredith was looking at her a couple of times side-eyed too. But I think that Meredith kind of felt like, I'm giving her the big sister. That's what I took. I'm giving her the big sister, little sister treatment. I don't like everything she's doing, but as long as she accepts my reprimand as a big sister, then we'll be okay. Because Meredith did, in a gentle way, like, handle her a couple of times season 1.
She talked to her. She explained to her.
Yeah. I think what has happened with Lisa, and we've seen this happen on these shows many times, the Housewives, and it seems to happen on the Housewives especially, probably because they do make more money, so the stakes are higher. Girl, I am hearing everything you're doing over there. So the stakes are higher. I think what is happening with Lisa is that she is getting too caught up in the show of it all, especially since, as we've said, she's clearly been trying to kind of shadow produce all season. And so in doing that, she is sacrificing her friendship with Meredith. She doesn't think that she is, but she is.
Oh, she definitely is.
And I don't even, and honestly, I don't even think that she necessarily means to, but you can't make the moves that you can't make the type of moves that she's making and not sacrifice that friendship, especially when it comes to a situation. We see you back. Yay, Missy's back. Especially when it comes to someone like Meredith, and especially as it relates to Meredith with Jen, because Meredith feels so strongly about it. We don't have to agree because it's not us, but that is her and that is how she feels. And ultimately, you and Jen were not close enough or knew each other well enough for you to go so far to those lengths to defend her and all of that, just so when you know that I'm hurt by it. Even if you think that my pain is completely irrational, okay, then I'm being irrational. But why do you care about this person so much anyway?
And we've been genuine, like we were friends before this show started for years.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you just met this woman due to the show.
Yeah, and I think like because I think they knew each other because Jen definitely said that the whole thing about Lisa with her events and stuff like that. So I'm sure she knew her in passing, but she didn't. She definitely didn't know her. I think it's clear who knew each other: Whitney and Heather, who still weren't necessarily close, but they're cousins, so they knew each other, and Meredith and Lisa. Then Jen Shaw, they probably knew in passing, like just from hanging out, but not friends. And then Mary was just, somebody they threw in for local color, I guess. I don't know.
Look, Jen Shaw and Mary knew each other, and we know this for a fact only because of the conversation about the aunt and the amputation.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. But even with that, they didn't know each other well. It was like kind of them getting together and bonding as it relates. And Jen even said it, like bonding as it relates to them both knowing they were going to be a part of this cast. And like Jen said, we were two women of color, so I was looking forward to getting to know her and being friends with her, and tried to probably like a little force of friendship. We're going to go to New York, we're going to do whatever. And then they spent a little too much time together and got acquainted with each other's brand of crazy, and then it didn't work out because they both have their own personal brand of crazy.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, they do. They do. Look, I was on TikTok last night, and they had like a reel of Mary's greatest hits.
Oh my God! If you
And
have it, you gotta send
the
it to me.
faces alone, I
look,
can
and
imagine.
one of them had Mary. This is so wrong, but it had Mary talking about the aunt, and then it had, and I don't even remember what episode this was, but apparently the aunt was coming to Jen Shaw's house.
Yes,
with her.
because she had a little boy with her or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and she said, "Show me your legs," and she like pulled up her skirt. And meanwhile, on the reel, Mary's talking mad junk about the aunt, and I'm like, whoever made this reel is just,
they're going to hell.
So wrong.
And
Yeah,
I remember that because because that diary, I think that is when, all these people who all of a sudden woke up and decided they were team Mary because she's entertaining. No, she's not. The real Mary is the chick who had time to think about it and still said in her confessional, I don't know why the lady's legs got cut off. I guess maybe she didn't drink enough water.
Right. She did say that. But look, and in this reel, they also showed she came into her church, and I guess the choir was practicing, and she told the guy who was playing the guitar, "You're getting too fat. You need to drink more water."
No, see, I didn't see that. Is that what you were talking about earlier, Sharita?
When she's doing choir rehearsal, yes.
Oh my gosh.
She's crazy.
Oh my gosh, I gotta see that. So anyway, bottom line is a fight ensues, everything goes haywire. It looks you know who it reminded me of? It reminded me of Nene and Kim in the RV.
When they were driving down to Florida when
when I saw it on the commercial and when I saw it on the show, I said, this is Nene and Kim in the RV. It went because the way that Jen went after Lisa, and I tell you what, that woman, that producer, the one with the braids who grabbed Jen, she had her work cut out for her because Jen was not making it easy. Like dead ass. She wasn't making it easy.
I'm over Jen every time. Don't get me wrong. I know she's an emotional person, but I think she's past emotional. She goes to the extremes like, but why is nobody defending me? Why are you not defending me? Like, I understand her point of why she feels the way she feels, but the way she
at
expresses
this point,
it,
nobody really knows what's going on. Like, the mere fact that these women are willing, I don't care, contract notwithstanding, the mere fact that these women are still willing to be around you, film with you, talk to you, even to have conversations that somewhat allude to your charges is huge. Because if in some settings, and I would dare to say, especially like with some of the ladies in Beverly Hills, I would venture to say that some of those women, like especially some of the old school, like a Lisa Vanderpump, a Camille Grammer, or some Adrienne Maloof, some of those folks would never film with a cast member with pending criminal charges. They would tell Bravo, you know what, sue me, because what I'm not going to be doing is filming with a castmate with pending federal criminal charges. As far as I'm concerned, I was traumatized because you all did not protect me, because I was sitting in a damn production van when police and Homeland Security and FBI agents pulled up with guns and everything else. I am traumatized. Hell no, I'm not filming. And if I do film, I'm not filming with her.
But can we just also add that before Jen Shaw got out of jail with the braids or whatever,
She
right?
went
She
to
went to
jail
jail with
with
the
the
braids.
braids. Would you stop? Those were her veil braids.
Okay, so here's the thing.
Her vacation braids.
Before she walked through that door, she signed a
Your
whole
phone went
bunch
down again, boo.
she
Yeah.
signed a whole bunch of paperwork,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yes. Tell it,
And
girl.
to
Tell
be
it.
on pretrial release, and you're
You
not
better
supposed
tell
to
it.
be beating no asses and you on pretrial release. Like, who does that? Like, if anything, like that's the last thing you want to do. And honestly, like if I was a prosecutor and I don't know what it's going to look like next week. It could be a big teaser, nothing burger. But if it is something substantial and she gets found guilty, I would try to use that towards sentencing.
I mean, it was just, I mean, I yeah. I don't even know what to say. Everything you said is right. Everything you said is right. And these courts, in every situation, whether it is in the Erica Girardi situation with her husband and in this one, and I do believe I did hear that recently, they always ask Bravo for footage. And I know that they asked Bravo for footage in the Jen Shaw case, because hell, she said things even that Bravo has left in the episode that could be somewhat incriminating, or at the very least contradictory to whatever story she's telling them. Because I think we can pretty much figure out, based on the way that she tried to distance herself from Stu when she was talking to Heather, she's probably probably with at the courts, telling her attorneys that she damn near barely knew the guy, if she gonna sit up and play in our faces and say that she doesn't even know what he was doing and they hardly work together on camera. So that's just, so the stuff that Bravo showed on the air doesn't even account for the hundreds of hours of footage that we didn't see. Like, for instance, when they showed those shady ass throwaway scenes of her and Stu walking in the garden and all of that kind of stuff that they normally would never have shown if this case wasn't going on. You know that obviously those scenes were much, much longer, with far more conversation than the little beat pieces that we saw. And that's just like this fight. There's stuff that's edited around it, and things that were said, and probably some extra expletives and all of this stuff. Well, when the court gets this and all the other stuff, they're getting all the footage. They want Bravo's unedited footage.
Yeah, it would, and like a lot of this would go towards her sentencing, even towards restitution. If she's like, I don't have any money, I mean, it's a mess. It's a mess. And I don't care how emotional she is, she got to get together because she got a whole family, like kids,
Well,
husband, mother with her retirement savings on the line.
God,
Like,
don't tell me about that
she
one.
gotta get it together.
Yeah, she really does. Like I'm okay even with her getting elevated, because women of color, when we get passionate about what we're talking about, a lot of times we do become a little more animated. I'm not knocking her on that. It's
Yeah,
just her
but
animation.
that's not
No.
animated.
That's what I'm
crank
saying. But
right.
that's what I said. It's gone. She goes past animation to the point that, like, she kept on. I understood last season. Let me backtrack to last season. What Whitney kept on saying to her when she's like, "You ruined my husband's party," and Whitney's like, "We did not. We didn't tell you to break the glass." But let's be honest. I do agree with her that had you not, that wasn't the time or the place to tell me what you told me.
Yeah.
So it set a whole thing, a chain into motion. Okay, so a chain of,
and I didn't break the glass and put the
for no
and
reason.
put the no, but I'm saying I didn't break the glass and then put the shards up to your neck. Like, there's I may have broken the glass on the ground, but we all there's breaking the glass by just throwing it on the ground for emphasis, and then there's taking a bottle and breaking off the bottom half and putting the shards against
Exactly.
your neck.
So last
season, let's not get
last
crazy.
season, yes, and I understand where Whitney was like, no, that's on you. But did I think she started, like you said, that's where it's like, okay, I understand you're frustrated because you wanted to have the perfect party for your husband, and it did go to the left. But throwing the glass was
this stuff.
No, she just gets,
and this stuff on the van though.
She's too much. She's too much sometimes. I saw it last season, so I'm not shocked that what she did this time is what she did, because she always gets animated with, well, when at the end of the season when they went to Vegas and they had to restrain her, then when she pushed Meredith, or was it Lisa? She pushed one of them, and I'm like, okay, so she does show, and that's another reason they've seen her get physical before, because she hit or swatted? She swatted Lisa. Whitney. Yeah, it was Whitney.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was Whitney.
Whitney.
I knew she swatted somebody.
Because that's why. Because remember, she tried to apologize to her when she got back. Because that's why Whitney still, you can tell, isn't like she f's with her, but like at arm's length. You can see that it's kind of like you're her friend, and then I just happen to be her friend. But like if she ain't around, we ain't doing nothing together.
Exactly.
But no, this was I now, is Lisa frustrating? Yes. Does she get on our nerves? Yes. And the voice? Yes. All of that. And was she talking out of three different sides of her neck on the van, in the van? Absolutely, because even the other ladies were like, okay, Lisa, now come on, that ain't what you said. So we know, like, she's faking some stuff, and her castmates are calling her out, which of course is pissing Jen off even more, because then it's like, okay, so not only were you really were kind of dogging me, which is what I accused you of doing, but you tried to turn it around on me. But other people are confirming that you was talking cash shit too. Okay, all of that. But under the circumstances, as Missy said, given that you got bigger things to worry about, whether or not this woman is whatever you want her to be it is definitely not a priority now, and certainly not to be getting worked up over something even I wanted to say stupider, even more foolish, as it relates to Meredith, because why wouldn't she care more about her friendship with Meredith than she does with you? She's known her longer. And up until y'all started talking on the phone 3 times a day or whatever it is you claim y'all were doing, she made no secret of the fact that no, hun, this isn't a book club. We're talking about, we're actually wrapping up talking about the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City on Bravo. But anyway, she made no secret of the fact that Meredith is my best friend. We're like sisters. Meredith. I mean, hell, they're even getting the same fillers and stuff in their faces and are morphing into each other. So so it's just really nuts. But anyway, so that is all we have. Thank you very much for coming on, Sharita. See the fun you've been missing.
I know. Yeah. I was behind, so I couldn't join because I finally just got caught up a couple of weeks ago. Finally.
Well, now you got to stay caught up because within the next couple of weeks we'll be dealing with the
Oh yes.
reunion. I almost feel like I almost feel like we should get dressed up just to talk about.
Uh,
I gotta go find some
no.
velvet.
Oh yeah.
And
I'm
just wrap
still
it
in
around my head.
quarantine, but I do have some sequence joggers I wore on New Year's Eve.
Yes, put
I
on
do
your
have
sequin
those.
I
joggers.
got a tank top that got a little glitterati in it. I'll put that on.
I have a sequin jumpsuit, strapless jumpsuit that I think I'll put it on, and maybe there might be a piece of velvet around here, like from my Christmas
You can
tree,
wrap it
because I
around.
feel like, yeah, I feel like velvet. You know what? In honor of Jen and who else had on purple? There was two purples, right?
Yes. Jen had on purple and no, she was
Well,
Didn't
anyway,
Lisa have on? Lisa
Lisa
had
was
on
it was
purple,
kind
fuchsia.
of like
or
She
a
was a fuchsia.
fuchsia,
Yeah.
that
magenta.
She
was?
was.
Well, at any rate, I have a purple schmelvet Christmas tree skirt. I think that is what I am going to put on. I'm going to put it around my head. It's going to be a whole look. It will still be way better than what they did. I swear.
I.
It can't be
That's what I said.
worse.
Can anything be really that much worse? No.
No, no.
Do I have to
Okay.
put a bra on? Do I have to put a bra on?
Why
That's
bother?
my line in the sand. Okay. All
Why
right.
bother?
That's your line in the sand,
I mean,
Melissa.
because you know
She's like,
what?
no, I'm
Based on
done.
what we saw with their
Yeah.
looks, none of them wore any kind of
No.
foundation garments because everybody looked perfectly shapeless.
Yes. All of them. Nope.
Yeah,
Not one
that
of them
was.
was
I
cinched
mean,
to the gods.
nobody
No.
had. Nobody was cinched to the earth, let
To the
alone to the
gods,
gods.
yes.
I don't think I don't think hips are in style in Utah. I don't think
No, I think they're
everybody has
probably
the
frowned
SpongeBob.
upon. Yeah, they want to be straight up and down, that model-less look.
Okay,
Yeah.
The 1980s.
is that what we're
No, they
doing?
want to be the 80s model-less where you're straight up and down. Yes, curves are not embraced there. I still think they want more of a.
But you'll get your lips injected to look like a guppy.
I haven't figured that one out yet either.
No. But you're
Yeah.
SpongeBob all the way. You're SpongeBob all the
SpongeBob
way.
with liver lips.
Well,
Okay.
even if they don't
All
want the
right.
cinching, at least smooth. They didn't. None of them look smooth. You can get foundation just to smooth you out, not to.
They managed to screw up Jenny's shape. How do you do that?
Yeah.
Same thing with Whitney. I'm like, what? How do you do that? It's like virtually impossible. And and although like we give Lisa a hard time, let's not act like Lisa's got a bad
No.
figure. I mean, she's a I think she's a little more like athletic,
Mm-hmm.
but definitely, I mean,
No hips.
I take it.
No hips.
Yeah, she doesn't have any
Hips.
No
hips, but
hips.
I mean, she doesn't have. But again, the right dress can make hips, and if it's not built into the dress, then you do it with the foundation garments.
Mm-hmm.
Like hips can be purchased without surgery. It's been done since the beginning of time.
Look at the RuPaul Drag Race. If I've never seen some men that got the
Okay,
curviest curves and they don't put on like little like
honey,
yes.
you can give yourself a shape with some saran wrap and a good girlfriend to run around you in circles a few times. It can happen. You can do it on the cheap. You could do it expensive. It all depends on how much you want to breathe and whether or not you're okay with sweating.
Mm-hmm.
But it can work.
How much you want to breathe? I like breathing. I do.
Okay, but the point is it can be done. But at any rate, we're gonna get ready to go. So I'm going to give you some applause too. So let's give some claps for Riri, who better be back.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay, we're gonna do our cheers for Missy because she loves her cheers.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Thank you very much, everybody, for hanging with us with our Real Housewives of Salt Lake City marathon, which it ends up becoming. But we end up having so much fun. And thank you to all of you who listened to the episode last week. I think we had it was like over 100 listens just within the first 24 hours of that episode, and I got notified that and it had to be because of those two shows that we were trending 240 on iTunes, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a huge deal because we know there are literally thousands of podcasts out there. So that's pretty good. So I was like, hey, we're moving. So as always, come back and hang with your girl. Lots of other stuff coming on. I've already got 3 episodes, believe it or not, in the hopper waiting to go up this weekend that are already done, finishing editing, like the poor little rich girls fail episode is done and almost ready, and also the episode from Emmett to Ahmad, a mother's perspective, is almost ready as well. So lots of great content coming up. We will also get the crew together because I feel like we are going to have to, whether we like it or not, Sharita, we're gonna have to get Sean on the horn.
Yes.
And we are going to have to talk about that Ready to Love
Yes.
reunion because whoo, boy,
Yes.
that's why we didn't come on until 9 tonight, Missy, because Sharita watches that too, so she's part of that crew. But lots of good stuff coming up. I will also be appearing once again on the Tisa Tell show. Her show has just really been skyrocketing. But I will also be appearing on that show sometime within the next 5 days. We're nailing that down to give my perspective on the ongoing trial, which I would imagine is going to be wrapped up probably within the next week. But the Cardi B versus Tasha K trial, some really interesting things have come out of that just within the past day or so. And so we'll be catching up on that too before court goes back in session on Tuesday. So stay tuned and Happy New Year, because we're still in the beginning. Happy New Year, folks.
Happy New Year.
Missy. Yes, Happy New Year. And
Happy 22.
Happy 2022. Oh my gosh, it's already going by too fast. Please listen to us on anywhere where you listen to podcasts. And most importantly, if you have Apple iTunes, please go on there, listen, give us 5 stars and a review. Same thing on Spotify. Please subscribe everywhere so you can listen to us all the time. Go back and listen to some of the old shows as well. The link for my book, The Parenting Odyssey, is also in the info section of the podcast. I would certainly love to send it out to you. Otherwise, as I've said to you before, if you are thinking about it, clicking about it, linking about it, or just want to talk about it, chances are I want to do those things with you. So let's be honest together. Good night. So you guys can say good night.
Good night.
Good night.